on this webinar all around wrapping up from Define Tomorrow. For those of you that couldn't attend, I assume that's everyone on this webinar, you missed a fantastic day if I'm completely honest with you. So next year, I hope you can get it in your calendar early enough so we can see you there. We had over 200 IT professionals there in person at Ashton Gate on the 3rd of February. We had fantastic speakers flown in from around the US and across the UK. Today, my job is to try and take a day's worth of content and brew it down into, I don't know, 30 to 45 minutes to help keep you up to date, maybe give you some tips of the key strategies you should be looking at and considering for your business. Ultimately, if there's anything you want to discuss more or you'd like a little bit more detail, please reach out to your account managers at Cascade or to myself, because we're more than happy to dive deep for you. So what I'm going to try and do is summarize some key themes. If we pop the agenda up, first of all, that kind of just shows you the areas that we covered on the day. First of all, we had fantastic sponsors representing many people in the industry. We had the likes of Microsoft there with AI and modern workspace. We had Druva there all around data protection, Arctic Wolf and Pure Cyber around security operations. We had Gamma and Dubba looking at how voice is part of the modern workspace. And we had Barracuda, Nova4 and Druva all looking at cybersecurity inside your infrastructure. So a fantastic wealth of technology partners there, all leading to a fantastic agenda, which I hope to be able to summarize some of the key points. I couldn't possibly go through everything in the short amount of time that we have now. So if we have a look at some of the sessions, some of the speakers that we've got there, first of all, I'm going to kick us off with a bit of a keynote. Some of the things that I'm seeing, working with all of the clients that Cascade's worked with, I'm going to summarize what I think is most important to the organizations we're working with at the moment. We were lucky enough to have Nico from Microsoft talking all around AI solutions, and quite a lot of the content today is going to be around AI, but I hope to be able to do it in such a way that makes it really actionable, helps you understand how others are maybe looking at it and what the journey looks like for those other organizations. We had the amazing Lisa Clark from Dell, who came talking about how Azure is much more than workloads in the cloud and how it can be an adaptive cloud for your organization. Christopher Fielder flew all the way from the United States of America to talk about Arctic Wolf. He was a really insightful presenter, telling us everything that they are seeing in the field going on with cybersecurity. And you can see some of the others there on screen. We've got Ian Heptonstall from Druva. We've got our amazing team talking about AI, Jack and Matt Hernandez. We had the fantastic Libby Jackson that spoke all around how space and IT aren't that different. We had Joy Apple, again, flying in all the way from America. So without any further ado, let's get on with today's content. Let's have a look at what is resonating with others.
AI is evolving rapidly and making a huge impact on how we work. In a short space of time, AI has moved from a sea of possibilities to a business reality, already embedded in many of our everyday applications. And while it offers many competitive advantages, it also brings risk. This is no longer a future conversation. It's happening today. To succeed with AI, you need a clear strategy to move forward with confidence, stay competitive, and fully understand the risks around data, security, and governance. At Cascade, we help you take a structured, practical approach to that journey. By getting the foundations right, we work with you to turn your AI vision into a reality. Let's define your tomorrow together.
So this section of Define Tomorrow for me is all around being able to look at the industry, look at what I'm seeing amongst our customers, and hopefully try and deliver some advice, some insights that are going to be relevant to everyone. There are obviously fantastic organizations out there like Gartner and Forrester that offer fantastic advice that often us as IT professionals look at. But what I often find is when you have a look at how that advice maybe relates to our type of customers in our geography, it isn't always connected. So what I always try and do is deliver practical advice based upon what I'm actually seeing between the industry and where we are today. So to get us started on that, let's just have a look at some key statistics. And I promise today isn't all going to be about AI, but for anyone that is in a technical role, you really now need to be considering what the impact of AI is going to be on your business. I look back to last year's Define Tomorrow, and at the time there was quite a lot of excitement around AI, but there was no real practical examples of how people were using it, other than dabbling around with some chat GPT. But where we are another year later, it's completely flipped on its head. We see businesses really leveraging it and using it as a point of differentiation. And if you haven't got an AI strategy, if you're kind of hiding with your head in the sand, it could be at the detriment of your role or your business moving forward. So it is really important to make sure you get that mix right. If no one has ever looked at the Microsoft Work Trend Index, I highly recommend it. It comes out every year, and it always summarizes some of the key trends. Importantly, it's not just from Microsoft. They get their research from IT professionals, and that's what informs the report. So 69% of those people that took part in the survey this year regularly use generative AI for work purposes. Certainly, as I'm sat here now, I've got a couple of agents doing work for me while I'm presenting for you. It's completely flipping on its head the way that I work as a professional inside my organization, and the way that I'm considering how Cascade can help its clients and deliver a more personalized experience moving forward. The next area for us to have a look at then is obviously security, and it needs to go hand in hand. Whilst AI is a fantastic opportunity, it also introduces massive risk to businesses as well. GCHQ handled 204 significant cyber attacks in 2025, up from 89%. That's a 129% increase. And these are only the significant attacks, the attacks that maybe have affected government or the NHS. Much more of that is happening. And organizations I am seeing now are taking their cybersecurity much more seriously. Whilst it's something that people have always been concerned about, I'm now seeing people proactively investing in security operations to ensure that they are secure. It's not a question of if you're going to get attacked, but when, and you need to make sure that you're lining up everything in order. Do you really know what your cybersecurity hygiene is today? Do you know what the next thing you should be doing to protect your organization is? Many don't, and that is the area we see people investing in at the moment. The other thing that, again, is being driven by AI, it is influencing an awful lot at the moment, is rising prices and scarcity. So for those of you that haven't seen, because of hardware manufacturers investing their time and money and capacity in building the chips for the AI industry and for the hyperscalers that are utilizing AI, we are now seeing scarcity of memory and NAND components for the consumer market, for the servers that you've got. We're seeing server prices rise to 60 to 80%. And industry insights from the likes of Tom's Hardware are saying this could last up to a decade. So what we're saying here is people need to just consider what is your strategy for hardware. That doesn't necessarily need to be just servers, but if you've moved to the cloud, then we're also seeing a scarcity of the resources in the cloud as the likes of Microsoft are trying to get more hardware in to keep up with demand. And it is also affecting the endpoint devices. So all of these things mean that you've got to take a much more strategic approach to what you're doing. So for me, the top three priorities that I see people looking at, the first one, we've touched upon it, is now is the time to be more strategic. What is your approach to AI? What are you doing now? What are you doing next? And what are you doing later? How are you approaching what needs to go on here? And data is incredibly important to your AI journey. And we'll come back to that in a moment. The second point is to get your house in order. Whenever we talk to organizations, whether it's around cybersecurity, innovation, their roadmap to success, and then we revisit them, we often hear, yeah, we haven't completed as much as we hope to. And it's always because business as usual gets in the way. So now is the time to make sure you've got your house in order. Make sure that you have your vision set out. Make sure you have your strategy defined, and make sure that you have all the right players in all the right places to assist you. We are certainly assisting more organizations in their business as usual, whether it comes to data protection, security, to help share that burden, to be an extension of your team. And the third element, and we will touch upon this, is to think outside the box. AI is now able to offer you a lot more possibility than you've ever had before. Cascade, for the first time, now has a development team inside our organization. That is all down to vibe coding practices and the ability to be able to leverage AI for real difference inside our organization. So something that you've previously gone, we can't afford this piece of software, we couldn't possibly do that. With automation, orchestration, and AI, you now be able to do things that weren't previously possible to you in the future. So when we zoom in, when we double click on that AI, let's think about what are the solid foundations. Because maybe you're like, yeah, Barry, everyone's banging on about AI. My organization doesn't want it at the moment. It's not something I'm looking at. I would be asking you, but when are you going to be looking at? When does it really start mattering to your organization? At what point do your competitors start doing something with AI that then affects your ability to be able to execute and be competitive into your market? So it might not be the fact that you need to do something today, but it might be the fact that you need to get ready to be able to do something. Where is your data located today? Is it in a mix of file servers and on-premises servers? Or have you moved that to the cloud? Is it sat in VMs in the cloud? Or have you moved that onto platform as a service with things like Azure SQL? Have your files moved from the file servers into Microsoft 365? Because once you make these changes, the APIs are able to access the data in much easier fashions, in ways that it can happen securely. You can start getting the value of AI very quickly if your data is in the right place. But most of the organizations I'm speaking to today, the data isn't in the right place. The data isn't necessarily classified. You don't have basic things like purview information protection labels, like DLP in place. So if AI was to be rolled out, it would be able to access all the data that user has access to. So data is important, but that pulls into the other two elements as well. What is your governance frameworks? One thing I would like to ask you is, what inside your AI policy, what does it say your users can do with AI? Too many AI policies say that people shouldn't do things with AI, not what they can do. And this results in shadow AI. At Define Tomorrow, I asked for a show of hands, and near enough every single person inside the audience said that shadow AI was a challenge for their organization. Do you really know what is being used inside your organization? And then finally, security. We need to make sure that we can use AI in a secure manner, that we are protecting it, that we know who is using what AI inside the business. Do you know which users are using shadow AI, and what will be your approach to those users? So all of these things do need to be considered, and you need to figure out what your approach is to AI. And we've got some ways to help you with that. But my bit of advice, whether it's not just about the AI or whether it's about something else inside your organization, you really need to start that cloud migration. You need to review your security posture and start improving it. There's a Japanese business philosophy called Kaizen. And from that perspective, it is all about getting started and then iterative improvement. Too many people seek perfection to get started, and that stops them. It gives them decision dysfunction. They don't ever move anything forward. With Kaizen, once you've built your framework, once you know what that first milestone is, you can get started from that perspective. Now, us here at Cascade, we are an organization that specializes in helping transformation. We help organizations that are needing to transform the way that they work, and then we're able to then help support them on that journey. That is what we've specialized in for a long time, and that's what we're doubling down with. When so much change is happening at the moment, we want to be your strategic partner that can help you on this journey. So as we look to bring all those things together, Cascade has been working behind the scenes, and I'm pleased to announce that at Define Tomorrow, we launched Cascade Journey. This is a platform that we've built ourselves with our own framework, which I will come to later on, that will allow our account managers to work with you to plan your strategic journeys. There is a catalogue of pathways that we've already defined. So if you want to move to the hybrid cloud, but you don't know what your next step is, the pathway will tell you. There might be an exploratory workshop. There might be a data collection exercise. There might be some decisions that are needed alongside the way. There might be an initial phase of a migration. All of those things are already pre-planned. We are already there to discuss them with you. You can track things like when are the renewal dates for your Microsoft licensing, for your VMware licensing? What are the things that really need changing inside your organization? So we're about to launch this at the end of the month, phase 1, where your account managers will be able to come and work with you. We'll be able to track your strategic initiatives, track the projects that we're going to work on together, and help you explore when those renewals are due. In phase 2 that we're hoping to get out very soon, you'll be able to log in this yourself. Think of it as like an enterprise planning tool that you will have access to. Full Gantt charts, full ability to set the priorities, what matters to you inside your organization. I'll come to that a little bit more. But at Cascade, our consultancy and then our attached services are there to help you, to be an extension of your team. If IT wasn't already complex enough, we're now introducing AI. Just this week, we've seen more announcements from Microsoft and things that have been changed than where we were last week. There is constant evolution, and that's where we, as your Microsoft partner, are here to help you make sure you're delivering the strategic change into your organizations. So that was just a little bit of a summary of some of the stuff that I went through at Define Tomorrow. We've got a number of elements, certainly on the AI piece, that we can come to later on. And we've got some follow-up events. So if this is really relevant to you, you can come and join us to explore those. But Microsoft gave us a really good insight into where they were going with this. And actually, we've seen some announcements that were talked about at Define Tomorrow now actually be formally announced. So Nico was a fantastic presenter from Microsoft. And one of the main things he was talking about was the frontier business, this Microsoft idea of what the business of the future looks like and what the relationship will be between the business, AI, and your team, your employees, your users. I've picked just some bits because this was quite a long part of the presentation, but I like some of the things in terms of the frontier firms. The organizations should be able to buy intelligence like electricity. You should be able to buy IT services like electricity. It should be a commodity moving forward. So where is the value in the IT team? We're seeing a lot of operational departments navigate around IT now and going out to market for their own solutions themselves. That can be quite worrying for an IT team, especially when we lose the ability to govern and secure it. So we need to change the operating model of IT to meet business where it needs to and help ensure that they're getting the change they need. We need to be putting AI to work like an employee, and I've got a fantastic slide around that in a moment, which is really interesting way to consider where AI is going. And then we need to compound it like interest. So for each piece, we're getting additional value each time we're rolling it out from that perspective. Now, if we look at where the phases of adoption are, most of them will probably recognize, or most of us will recognize this first phase. The AI is there and it's acting as your assistant, as your co-pilot, like the name suggests. You're asking it maybe to do some research and help you. Maybe you've dabbled and started to use it to do a little bit of coding or something like that. But that is very much only the first way that AI is going to be used inside your organization. If we look at not what's coming, but actually what is here today that people are starting to explore in phase 2, you see AI is then being used as if it is employees. The humans inside your organization have a team of agents. They're digital colleagues. They're being tasked with specific pieces of work. We've started to see this with Microsoft Co-work be announced, integration, a collaboration between Microsoft and Anthropic with Claude. And that's going to be rolled out now to Microsoft 365. But it goes even further than that. And this is where it gets maybe even a little bit uncomfortable, because in the second phase, the agents take on tasks with human direction. In phase 3, the agents start doing it. Now, this feels a little bit like, I'm not into my films too much, but when the robots start taking over. But this is the journey that is being planned by the large organization. This is the reality of what happens. And I was reading something the other day that when you look at these agents should have their own security boundaries. They should have their own accounts. You shouldn't necessarily be deploying agents to do something on the behalf of a person. They should be responsible for their own actions, and IT should be able to secure and govern them. We'll come back to that in a moment, but it's really important. We're going to see a massive proliferation of agents, not just inside Microsoft, but all around the ecosystem. So if you're sat there today and go, yeah, AI isn't really on the agenda at the moment, we're really not doing something, what will happen when you don't realize there is now a team of agents working in one of your departments and you've not even considered your AI strategy? This is something that we really need to kind of get in front of and make sure that we're innovating to keep ahead of everyone else inside the business, to make sure that we're securing it and we're delivering real production benefits for our users. So what Microsoft is saying is those firms that can get this are able to drive the better business benefits. And I think that makes sense, that if we have a team of agents that are able to be run, then we could be more efficient. We're able to hopefully put that to work in ways that allows us to deliver brand differentiation. Hopefully we can do it to deliver better customer experience. None of us want to be talking to a bot, so that shouldn't be necessarily what this is about. It's how can we help improve the experience? And this isn't about the basics of what you can do day to day. 82% of leaders say they're confident they'll use digital labour to expand their workforce capacity in the next 12 to 18 months. And this is the same Microsoft Work Trend Index survey. So I ask you, where inside your business are you going to start employing AI agents to do work? This is all sounding quite scary and something that we certainly need to be thinking about. So Microsoft have put together a success framework, and we've put together a success framework that we will also talk about a little bit later, that talks about how you can go out there and look at what you've got today and what you should be doing moving forward. Microsoft obviously have many different tools that are hooked up to AI. Microsoft 365 is pivotal to that, and the Graph API is the things that can connect that together, but equally make sure it's secure inside your organization. So maybe have a think about what your approach to AI is today and what could be next inside your organization. But we'll explore that a little bit more a little bit later. So one of the things that we've seen Microsoft announce recently, and I think we've got some blog posts planned on this subject, is Microsoft have announced Agent 365. So this is a control plane for all the agents inside your infrastructure. Kind of sounds to me like a problem's been made and then now another solution we're going to have to buy is being rolled out to be able to secure that. But unfortunately, I don't think this is something we can get away from. This is a control plane that you will be able to manage all agents across all technologies. Think of it as Entra ID and Intune management for all the agents, not the people or devices inside your organization. This is one of the components that make up Microsoft's new Uber SKU, the E7. For many of our customers, they're currently on E3, looking to go to E5, and now Microsoft's got E7. This is all about iterative development. This isn't something that we say everyone's needed today. It's about planning for the future. So it's important to figure out where this is going to go inside your organization. So that was what we had from Microsoft, but we took a slight change then, and we had the wonderful Lisa Clark from Dell, but is very much a Microsoft advocate, come and talk about what's going on inside your data center or in the cloud. So one of the things that lots of people are considering at the moment is what's going to happen to our VMware environment, what's going to happen to our virtual environment that we've been managing for a while. Now, some of our customers are already looking at hybrid workloads. Maybe they've got an Azure subscription. Maybe you've got a landing zone already deployed. If you're using Azure, but you don't know about this terminology, landing zone, maybe speak to one of your Cascade account managers to get us to do a health check of your Azure environment to understand how secure and what governance you've got in place. Many people aren't ready to move all of their applications to the cloud, and this is where Azure Local helps fill the gap. This is about you having a little bit of Azure available in your data center. You can deploy it in a single node or dual node configuration, so this isn't like Azure Stack, I think they used to call it, not Azure Stack HCI, that's what became Azure Local, but Azure Stack. That was a 42U building block that you had to deploy, came in on a pallet truck. This is 2 small servers, could be ruggedized, often deployed in McDonald's branches to deal with the selection of the menu. This is an option that you have for replacing your on-premises VMware infrastructure. If you're heading into the cloud, but you're not ready to do it now, and you want to have the ability to be able to manage some workload in the cloud and your workloads on premises together, that's where Azure Local comes in. If you're just looking for a cost-effective way of moving away from VMware, that's where Hyper-V still has its place. So Azure's adaptive approach means that Azure shouldn't be something now that you think about as only in the cloud. It can run wherever you want it to. There are workloads that can support IoT if you've got manufacturing sites. There are workloads that work really well at the edge, like the McDonald's scenario, hybrid in your data center, or multi-cloud across different approaches from that perspective. And Azure Arc is the common component that enables all of this to come together. So Azure Arc allows you to centralize the operations for your servers to allow you to be able to see those and govern those and secure those all in one single place through the Azure control plane. And this is the area that we see people buying into. As workloads are moving around, it allows you to centralize that, whilst equally allowing you to move away from that VMware burden. Since the Broadcom acquisition, we're seeing many people not aligning with the VMware strategy anymore. So Azure Resource Manager is the element that's able to bring together all these resources. You're able to look at how you deploy the infrastructure. We tend to use things like Terraform or the ARM templates to be able to roll out and have a DevOps approach to be able to help manage customers' environments. You're able to leverage services from Microsoft, whether that's things like security services with Defender for Cloud, whether that's the ability to be able to secure workloads and have the relevant policies in place. And you can now do that on premises or in the cloud. So you get that centralized management, you get to choose where you want the resources. One thing to be aware of is Microsoft resource is limited at the moment. So we are seeing some people have to deploy resources in the cloud in Sweden or other data centers at the moment, still within the Eurozone, still within GDPR guidelines. But we are having to see strategic decisions be made around the placement of workloads. So considering whether that's the right approach or on premises will be something that maybe you'll need to consider if your virtual environment's coming to the end from that perspective. So as we look at Azure Local, we can see the core components here that will make it up. If you need to have a look at, maybe you've got a Citrix environment today, you could use Azure Virtual Desktop. Maybe you've got databases where you could use SQL as a service or something like that. Maybe you want to make sure it's all secured and you've got Defender for Cloud. All of these different elements are now available both on premises or in the cloud. So if you like more of a CapEx approach, you can get a bit more of a mix of that as opposed to put it in the cloud, but there will always be that OpEx element in there as well. So the latest version of this is the 23H2 and onwards versions of that. There was quite a big change. So some of the early adopters of Azure Local have had a little bit of pain as they've moved from one version to another, but it's now into quite a stable release from that perspective. We've got lots of customers deploying it in 3 or 4 node configurations at the moment. It includes that Hyper-V as the hypervisor, storage spaces direct as the storage that runs inside the virtual environment, and then the software-defined networking can collaboration with Azure to be able to manage the networking components. Dell's solution for this is the Dell AX system nodes. HPE have a solution for that as well. Importantly, the version to go for now is this AX, this vanilla version. Microsoft have built a lot more value into the version that they've got. There were some earlier versions where the likes of Dell were trying to build additional software to help people manage it inside of there. It's not really that relevant anymore because Microsoft have built all the value into the system. And I've already mentioned some of the key services that you can choose to run on premises in the cloud, and this table then kind of shows you how they map from one side to another. So from our perspective, this is a journey that we're helping customers on a daily basis. And maybe you're not decided yet. Maybe you know actually within the next 6 to 12 months, you've got to do something with your virtual environment. Well, now is the time to speak to some of our specialists to help plot what that might need to look for. We can help do a free analysis of your workloads and help plot what the right solution might be for you. And one of the elements that many people want is they want us to help manage that cloud environment, keep it up to date, keep it aligned with the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework. And that's where the Cascade Cloud Managed Service comes out. We're currently working on that. We're currently finalizing it. So if this is something that you are looking for assistance is managing your workloads inside Azure, then please reach out to the team. So we're also running a hybrid cloud workshop. So within the next 12 to 18 months, you need to make this migration. Now is the time to start exploring these different technologies, look at actually how you can move all the way to the cloud or whether Azure Local might be right for you. Even if Hyper-V is the right thing you want to do today, but you're looking to move DR to the cloud, we're going to cover all of those elements in a very interactive session. I think we've already got over 10 people signed up for this small workshop. So if you're interested, register now or speak to your account manager to see if there are any places available. Now, I'm not going to dig into this too much because I don't think I could do it justice. Christopher Fielder was one of the most awesome presenters we've had at Define Tomorrow. He is someone that has been a CISO. He's been out there attacking, helping stop the attacks from some of the biggest cyber criminals. He does a lot of research into what's going on at the moment. And the piece of research that he summarized at the event is available for you to download. I think we've got a URL for you to go and view that content. Whether you're looking at Arctic Wolf or anything like that, I highly recommend that you download this report, maybe have a look at it. By all means, use AI to summarize it if you want to, but there's lots of good lessons to be learned around what you should be doing to ensure your organization is safe and secure. Certainly, if it's something that you want to understand what the posture is of your environment, speak to the team around our various health checks that we can do to help point you in the right direction. And that brought us onto a really interesting subject around your incident response plan. So a question to ask those that are on this webinar, how up to date is your incident response plan? Do you even have an incident response plan? If you were to have someone come up and tap you on the shoulder now saying, we're under cyber attack, what would you be doing? What is the response you go to? Now, there's lots of good frameworks you can look at. The NCSE has some good advice. There's obviously the NIST framework you can look at as well. But we also just explored what some of those meant at the event, looking at what successful looks like in terms of incident response. So why do you need it? 77% of organizations say they don't have a cybersecurity incident response plan. By having it, it helps you meet that regulatory requirements. It offers you clarity at a point of high pressure. And I've seen people go through cyber attacks that otherwise are very cool-minded, very down-to-earth people, but they go into panic mode and they don't know what to do at that point. It gives you the process to ensure that you respond quickly, that you help restrict access to anywhere that has the breach, etc. You need to make sure those regulatory requirements are in consideration. Have you reported the incident to the ICO within 72 hours? And in my experience, the ICO are actually a really helpful organization that ultimately, first and foremost, are there to offer you help and advice. It will only come to a point of fines and things like that if you've really let down the duty that you have to protect the data from that perspective. And I think it's up to 4% of global profit you can be fined. You need to make sure that you're notifying individuals if their data's been affected. And if you work in a regulated industry, you might have other bodies you need to make aware of what's going on. So what should be in your incident response plan? Let's take a very quick look at that. And we could do a whole webinar on this. Indeed, we have. So the first thing is how you're going to analyze the incident. How do you know what's happened? How do you know how you're going to contain it? How do you know what mitigations to put in place? So first of all is to understand what is your data collection methodology that you're going to use to analyze the attack. Second of all, and probably one of the most important, is how are you going to contain the attack? I don't know if anyone remembers, I think it was the Co-op attack that the threat actors actually complained that Co-op worked too quickly to isolate the environment, so they couldn't complete their mission. Well, that's fantastic feedback for the IT team at Co-op. Well done to them. And this is the hard decision that you might have to make, that actually you're going to cut your business off from being able to do business so you can contain it and get on top of it. The third part is then how are you going to remediate it? What are you going to do to remove the threat? And how will you know when the threat has actually been successfully removed before you then start recovering? I've seen people jump straight to the recovery to find they haven't contained it, that they need to remediate. You've got to do these things in order. Please go and look at the NCSE. Have a look at your disaster recovery plan as well. They should be kind of connected. They're not the same document. They are two separate documents. But will your DR strategy help you stay up? We see lots of organizations have their DR strategy as just their backups, and their backups are still something like Veeam, and that's where it falls down because the backups aren't immutable. They're often the first thing to be overwritten by the threat actor. So in your incident response plan, here are just some areas you want to make sure that are included. Feel free to take a screenshot, reach out to Megan, and she can send you a guide that we've got on this very subject. But these are the areas you need to make sure you're including. So following that, we had Ian Heptonstall from Druva. Druva is one of our biggest partners. We're actually Druva's biggest partner in Europe. It powers our Cascade backup service. And he dug into some of the important areas as to why Druva and Cascade backup is the right tooling that is available. I'm not going to go into the full detail because I think we've got some webinars coming up and things like that. But what I ask you is, in the event of a ransomware attack, in the event of something happening inside your network, Are your backups safe? Are they immutable, or could the threat actor delete or encrypt your backups? If there is a ransomware attack going on inside your backups, inside the VMs that you're backing up or the data you're backing up, would the backup technology notify you that that's going on? And then in the event of a recovery, does it help you recover? Picking different places from different recovery points to bring together an amalgamation of data that is correct across multiple different backup strategies because the data has been encrypted over time. That is exactly what Cascade Backup does, that is powered by Druva. I can't go into the content for this one because it was a wonderful in-person session and exactly the reason that I'd love to see you at Define tomorrow next year. We had the wonderful Libby Jackson. She is part of the European Space Agency, or certainly represents the UK on that, and she was in charge of one of the missions that Sir Tim Peake went up to the International Space Station. She spoke about all the wonderful stories of planning and things that nearly went wrong, lines of code that nearly sent the spacecraft out of control and things like that. If you ever have the opportunity to hear and speak from Libby, I highly recommend it. I imagine there's probably some great presentations from her on YouTube. So the area that we then dug into back on the AI side of thing was the path to AI success. And we've been working quite hard to put together a framework. I did a fireside chat with Graham Bidwell that we've been working on some of the development capability. But we're running an event where we're going to help organizations understand what is possible. What are other people doing today? We're actually going to help you get hands-on with AI coding and a success framework, which I'll come to in a moment. We've already got over 20 people signed up for this event, and we're actually going to probably be scheduling a second one in a couple of months. This is something that every IT professional should have their eyes around, should be thinking about, and thinking about where it sits in your strategy. So hopefully I can see you there. We're going to do it in our offices here in Bristol. If you're interested about us doing one anywhere else in the UK, reach out to Megan. It might be that we look to do some of those in more regional areas as well. So when you're assessing AI, and we'll dig into this, we've got the 5 different areas to help you be successful. The first one is aspire. Sometimes people can only imagine what is possible based upon what their preconceptions are. For us, we help break down those preconceptions. We help show you how others are being successful with AI, particularly in your industries. We help you assess where you are. Where is your data? Where is your AI maturity today? How are people actually using AI inside your organization? Do you know where that shadow AI is? We've got tooling available that is able to detect what shadow AI is going on, but please don't use that information to go and be punitive. Go and tell someone to stop. Grab those people as your AI champions and understand how your business could be leveraging it and how can you get to a secure footing as soon as possible. We architect the right solutions and help implement them and act to implement them. And then we look at that maturity journey moving forward. Megan's got a fantastic guide that myself and the rest of our AI team put together to help advise you. It's not marketing fluff. It is practical information to help you be successful. So please reach out if that's something that's valuable to you. So we actually dug into the process that we did for ourselves. So we kind of had a look. We decided to start a bit of a side project for how AI coding might help us inside our business. We kind of decided that we needed to do this properly if we were going to do it at all. We had a look at the current technical landscape and we looked at our skills and capability. We decided that it was more than just a web app. We needed to build our own solution, which is Cascade Tools. We wanted to prioritize the client relationship and improve our operational efficiencies internally. And actually what we have built is Cascade Journey. I mentioned it earlier. But more than that, we've built a well-architected framework that helps organizations be successful with vibe coding, AI-assisted coding. It means that you can release the potential, but equally ensure that you do it in a secure way. And this is what our stack looked like. We're great fans of Claude. We're using it day in, day out to build code. But we've now connected that with GitHub as our source repository, obviously owned by Microsoft. All of our applications are hosted on Microsoft Azure. We're using Azure Static Web Apps, Azure SQL as the backend, and Azure Front Door as the web application filter. But anything that we're putting out there and releasing, we're doing AI code reviews. We've got very stringent guardrails in place as to what the code needs to look and feel like. We make sure it's pen tested. We went through one of our first biggest pen tests on our code this week, came back with no critical or severe feedback on that. So the team have done a fantastic job of not only becoming developers, aligning to our vision and what we want, but doing it in a secure way. And then you can see some of the smaller technologies that are used down the bottom, but ultimately this is where the AI is helping us become those team of developers. And this is what we can help you do. If this is something that you're wanting to be considering, but you want to do it in a secure and safe manner, this is something we can help advise you with, no matter with where you are on the journey. So we've covered a lot there from that perspective. We've looked into a number of different areas of technology. We've looked into what is happening inside organizations. But I want to take you right back to the beginning of our presentation. Now is the time to be more strategic than ever before. What do you need to do this year to be successful? How can you make sure that AI is going to be a platform of success for your organization and not a challenge to your business or a security concern? Is your data in the right place? Have you got your plan to get your data into the cloud, allowing you the API access to leverage it in the AI tools in the future? How are you bringing the users along and making sure that you're championing AI inside your organization and not being the department that the computer says no? And how are you thinking outside the box? Something that wasn't possible today might now be possible to you now. So I hope you have found this webinar useful. As I say, very difficult to summarize a day's worth of content into one session, but there's a few other sessions there for you to reach out to. I highly recommend you have a look at the Cascade website and have a look at our events on there as well. But the important part is we want to be your strategic partner, helping you on this journey of transformation, of adoption, of ever-increasing security. We're helping many organizations like your organization already. If you want to help plot those journeys in Cascade Journey, that's going to be available to you at the end of the month. So hopefully you found this useful. I really look forward to speaking to you on one of our strategy sessions or seeing you at one of our events soon. Thank you very much for joining the webinar.
Barry, we do actually have a question for you.
Okay, fantastic.
Someone has said, as AI increasingly replaces traditional MSP functions like help desk, tickets, etc., are external IT partners becoming a legacy model, or is there capability in that AI gap that internal teams still can't close?
It's a really good question, and like any other industry, we've got to be considering where is our part on that journey. I think if you are a traditional IT MSP and your main function is to log tickets and fix basic user issues, you need to be considering actually what the future looks like for your business. Now, that isn't saying that I don't think there is a need. I think there is always a need because it isn't just about the layer that is working on tickets. It's about insight, it's about strategy, it's about helping maybe smaller businesses be successful in what they're doing. But you can't remain to do that with the same amount of resource, without the same investment in technology. So for me, it's got to come together. You've got to be more than a basic fix MSP, and that's not what Cascade is. We're a strategic partner. We are there to drive the strategy, drive the adoption, to improve security, not to do basic help desk functions. We can do that, but it's generally aligned with all of those other services as well. So yes, we are already looking at how AI helps our help desk. We're actually moving the platform at the moment. We're looking heavily at automation to make sure that we're delivering better service. Ultimately, users still might need help. They might not want to turn to an AI bot to get help. But if we can spend more of our time offering value to those users, rather than asking people to turn it off and on again, that's exactly where we can go and do that. But this is a really important subject. So yeah, whoever's asked the question, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to have a chat with you. I'd love to get your ideas on this subject and share with you some of my ideas as to what the future would look like for IT MSPs.
Brilliant, thank you very much. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A or the chat functionality, and Barry will answer them live. We can really put him on the spot now. If not, thank you very much for joining, everybody, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you all.